Welcome in, everyone. Welcome to our monthly State of Search meeting. Tonight, we're going to have John McAlpin showing us how to leverage AI for technical SEO. First off, I do want to say that State of Search conference tickets are on sale at stateofsearch.org. We do have a little QR code up here if you want to scan it with your phone, or you can do it later. I'll leave that up for a second. And then we do have a sponsor for this meeting, and that is status26.com. They can help you with your internet marketing, get your websites ranked a little better, hosting. If you need a website built, they can do it all. And here's the little QR code. It's just status26.com. All right, without further ado, I don't want to do too much. We're going to bring John in. Welcome in, John.
Hey, thanks, Casey. Appreciate it. If you're ready, we can dive right on into leveraging generative AI for technical SEO.
Yep. All right, go for it. It's all of you.
Great. A little bit about me first. I'm an SEO consultant and WordPress developer. So primarily, I'm an independent consultant and WordPress developer, and I'm also the head of SEO for the Well platform at Pillar4 Media. I'm also a writer for Search Engine Land, Search Engine Journal. You may see me around the conference and podcast scene. And I'll just kind of pop around here and there and share what I've learned. While we're diving into AI, it's obviously the hot topic of everything, and everyone's concerned about the fallout and how it's being used. But honestly, I think we're really limiting ourselves with AI right now. A lot of the focus has been on AI for content, and I think that's a really limited scope of what we can really do with AI. So my first note here is, AI is really only as powerful as your imagination and what you can think of to use it for. I mean, primarily in my day-to-day, I use AI for Excel formulas and Google Sheets formulas that are too complex for me to really figure out on my own. I mean, there's little things like that, but really it's what you can come up with. Another concept for us to check up on is remember that AI is not truly intelligent or creative. They are based on large language models that are basically learned data from around the web. And they only get better when they get new data to train on. So essentially, these LLMs, they collect a bunch of data and then they train upon it to learn it and understand it and learn how to learn what to do with all of that data and how to create outputs based on whatever your input is. And one of the best ways to train LLMs is with users. Users are the best training ground for these because we are what create the content on the internet. I mean, to go back a slide, honestly, if you think about it, with the Reddit and Google deal going on, because users are the best training ground, that's why Google wants to work with Reddit and scrape and learn from what users are saying. Now, will that benefit them in the long run? I mean, there's a case to be made that it could, but only time will tell. And before we really dive into the meat of how we can use this for technical SEO, we do need to get into a little bit of ethics with AI, and so that we can make sure we stay out of trouble. So best practices is when you're using AI for something that might be public. On a case-by-case basis, you'll need to be very transparent about what is AI generated. Um, I think we've all seen some horror stories online when you see Sports Illustrated or USA Today working with a company called Advon who were not transparent about AI created content, and they got hit hard by Google and blasted across the internet by SEOs and other publishers. And transparency would have been a big saving grace for them. They might have still gotten blasted, but not as hard. Data privacy is also another issue. We're going to dive in here in a little bit about how your data is being used. And remember that this is a tool, not a solution. In no way, shape, or form should you ever use AI as the crux of your strategy and how you do SEO. It's a tool to get there, not the end-all be-all solution. Another thing is to try to avoid accidental plagiarism. Remember, large language models are trained off the internet. At some point or another, you might accidentally plagiarize someone because there's only a limited amount of ways to say something, and it's very likely that you could accidentally plagiarize something, and it's happened before. Um, and remember to fact check. Ignoring fact checking can be really, really dangerous. Out here in Colorado Springs, where I'm at, there was an attorney who used ChatGPT to look up a case that didn't exist. And he tried to use that in court and got checked by the judge because that case never existed. And he trusted ChatGPT without fact checking. And you never want to be the person that gets called out for something like that. And just to reiterate what I said before, this is not your primary operating tool. This is just a means to an end for certain use cases. But let's get into the fun stuff. So one of the cool things that we can do with AI and technical SEO is it's great for analyzing large sets of crawl data. So whether you're using a tool like Screaming Frog or Sitebulb, or you're doing bot analysis, when you have a large set of data, AI is great at quickly analyzing and interpreting that data and finding key points. Some LLMs are better than others, and so we can talk about that later. But right now, that's one of my favorite things that we can do with it. Another thing is it's relatively fast results, especially when you're using something like Python. You can generate these results very quickly. You can build custom reports that are built on deltas, so you can really get like historical data without having to create a bunch of pivot tables and do Excel magic. You can upload to a AI tool of your choice and give it the context of what you're looking for and give you that information. Another thing you can do is sort and cluster data very effectively. This is one of the things AI is best at, is sorting and clustering, and finding common themes. And then the last thing is creating custom charts for your data. This is one where I think they have a long ways to go. They're really creative at coming up with charts and visually appealing charts. The problem with that is that while the data may be accurate, they'll try to sometimes label your charts for you, and the text will have a lot of typos or be blurred a little bit, and you can't edit it because they generate a PNG or a JPEG. You just can't. You can crop it and then add it later for sure, but you can't like say, oh, go back and edit what you just did and change this, because you're going to get an entirely different image that's going to start from scratch. So these are not perfect by any means. Let's talk about some risks. Data privacy concerns are a big one. We'll get into a little bit, like the next slide or two, about the different tools and how they use your data. I'm noticing they still struggle with a lot of complex multi-step tasks. So you really have to give them like one or two tasks at a time, especially when you're doing larger complex analysis. When you say do this, then like analyze this data, look for this trend, output this. And it's kind of hit or miss on how accurate that will be. And the last one is it's prone to mistakes. Just because it's a machine doesn't mean it's going to be right all the time. We're dealing with very fluid and unstable data that it's running on. So it's kind of like asking a toddler to do your homework. Sometimes you'll be shocked at the things that they can do, but you have to remember it's still kind of a toddler. So don't expect it to like be perfect. And then one of my favorite little bits here is John Mueller posted on LinkedIn, if these LLMs could automatically ask itself, "Are you sure?" twice before you give the answer. A fun challenge for you is to ask ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever your preference, or Claude or whatever your preference is, and have it generate an answer for you, and keep asking, "Are you sure? Can you fact check that? Can you double check that?" And it's going to give you some different results. So let's get into the privacy concerns I kept flirting about. Gemini, which is Google's product, will use any data you input to help train their model. So what does that mean for you? That means if you are using like customer data, it's, hey, analyze this customer data to find trends, that could go public. And so you need to be very careful about what you send to Gemini, because let's say you have some proprietary data you upload. That means they'll train on that data and may accidentally use it for someone else's search. So you need to be very careful about what you put into AI tools. One thing that happened is you're able to actually share your conversations from Gemini with someone else. There's a share button. So someone and this was found by Bill Hartzer, the founder of Status Search. He found that there's a conversation going on, and it was someone shared a link to a chat, and that got indexed. And all of a sudden, a bunch of conversations got indexed. Google did a recovery plan. The last I checked, there was only one still there, and it was like a Spanish page. I don't know if they're still there anymore, but it kind of hit the wire a little bit of like, oh my gosh, your chats can get indexed. Big deal. And while that's not a norm and it's likely not to happen again, it's still something to consider when we're working with, especially these new tools that pop up, is can they get indexed? ChatGPT, one of the more popular ones out there. They will automatically use any data to help train its model. However, they do have a way to opt out, which is highly recommended if you're doing anything sensitive. However, the downside is they won't let you have any chat history, which if you rely on chat history, like say you ask a lot of formulas like I do, you want to go back instead of like typing in how do you do this formula again, you can go back to your history and pull it. That could be really important to you. But if it's not important to you, then yeah, you can opt out. So there's some cases for when to use a tool like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, or anything else like that, and when to use Python. And for those that don't know, Python is a programming language. I like to say that Python is the type of language that if you can think of it, it can do it. It can work with a lot of sets of programs and do nearly anything you can put your mind to. However, it is code based. So you kind of have to have a knowledge of how to code Python, which has a lower barrier to entry than other programming languages. But that's not something you have to worry about right now because I actually created a lot of Python apps for you so you don't have to code. But let's talk about when to use each. So Chat, GPT, Gemini, etc. Those are all great if your data is not sensitive, if dealing with any kind of code makes you really uncomfortable, or if you need more complex natural language processing functionality. These tools do use state-of-the-art LLMs, and if you need a more complex functionality out of it, and more like plug and play, they are the best option. But if you're dealing with highly sensitive data, like say your internal bot analysis or customer data, or if you have larger data sets to process, because these public tools, even if you pay for them, do have you're relying on processors and they're gonna cap out at some point. So if you have a super large data set, at some point they're not gonna let you upload that data set. And if you require less natural language processing, you're more specific to what you're looking for, Python's the way to go. So these are the 5 things that we're going to cover in this presentation. The real meat of this is some ideas that inspire you to get active with AI and technical SEO. So what I'm going to try to do is give you a way to do this with a public tool like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, and then I'm going to give you the free Python tools. If you want to dip your toes in the water with Python, I'll give you a head start. So redirect mapping. One of the banes of a lot of our existence is redirect mapping, especially for very large sites. So what you do is basically, in ChatGPT, what I did say, this is the prompt I give it exactly is, hey, I've uploaded 2 TXT files. One is site A and one is from site B. I need help making a redirect map where site A will redirect into site B. And please do the following steps. And I basically tell it exactly what to do. Crawl the TXT files and scrape all the content and use natural language processing to understand the purpose of each page. And then create a new CSV file where everything's mapped together and add a similarity percentage. This is the key here. Whether you're using a public tool like ChatGPT or you're using Python, is to create that similarity percentage. And this is how we're going to fact check these tools. Because remember I told you they make mistakes. So the similarity percentage will let you sort it. So anything over like really 70 is pretty much going to be pretty accurate. And anything below 70% similarity is where you're going to want to start manually adjusting your redirect map. There is a lot of issues when it comes to redirect maps here. So the similarity percentage will save you. But still, if you have a site of like 100 pages, it might save you a few minutes to do this. But if you have a site with thousands of pages or even millions, running a program like this can save you a lot of time, especially if you can find, if you're doing a domain to domain redirect map, this can really save you a ton of time. Where if your URL is going to be very similar, the content is going to be similar, this is the way to go. Another thing I did is do this for Python. So let's say you are one of those people that have a site in the millions. Then if you upload some redirect maps or source data to one of these public tools, it's probably not going to accept that. It's going to be too much information and it's going to time out. So that's when I use a tool called Google Colab. Now, Google Colab is a free tool. I pay for Pro so that I can get better processing and use just higher computing power. But Colab is a great way if you're trying to learn Python, because you don't have to set up any custom environments. Everything is really kind of plug and play. You can just like copy and paste my code into Colab and run it. And how it works is when you open up one of my tools, and don't worry about these links at the bottom. At the end of this presentation, I share a quick link that has like a bullet list of all the code that I'm going to share today. So if you want to try any of this code for yourself, you'll have access to that. So whenever you're logging into Colab, you click on one of my links, it'll open up a page like this. And what you're going to do is first click where it says open files, and it's going to open up this side pane with where it's going to say like, an ellipses, a config file, and a sample data. And what you're going to do is you're going to click upload files, and you're going to upload two files, one named source urls.txt and one named target urls.txt, all lowercase. And that is what it's going to use and find to create the redirect map. And once you've uploaded those two files, all you got to do is click the play button right there on the left of the code, and it'll run. And then once it's done, it'll, in that little folders pane, you'll see an output called, I think it's like output.csv or results.csv or redirect.csv or something like that. So here's a closer look at it. And you'll see that I'm importing a bunch of different libraries to make this work. And yeah, you can try to analyze the code, see how it works, try to figure it out. This is a more simplified version where I'm really just scraped. In order to work faster with larger sets of data, I'm only scraping the title tag from all these URLs to find similarities there. Because if I were to try to scrape content and create a temporary database of all of that for millions of pages, it would take forever. Another thing we can do with AI is grouping URLs into topical clusters. So let's say you're in a position where you're trying to analyze a competitor site, or you are trying to do an acquisition or something like that, and you want to understand how they're performing on a topical level. What you can do is export like all the URLs and say, hey, I've uploaded two TXT files. One is the list of the URLs, and another is a list of content topics. And can you match them together? So again, crawl the content, understand the content, and then assign them to a topic, and then export it into a CSV file. You can even do a confidence score as here as well if you like. And this can save you a ton of time. Sometimes if you're savvy, you can, or if you're lucky, the websites will have the topic in the URL, or they'll have it on the site where you can use XPath or CSS selectors to extract the topic or category from the page like that. But sometimes people don't set up their sites in logical ways, and you have to really look at the content to find out what the category is. And I've unfortunately come across a lot of sites like that, and that's what prompted me to make something like this. And I did the same thing here in Python. So it's the same exact thing. Is you'll have two files that you upload. One is the topics.txt and another is the urls.txt. And it's using a natural language processing library called Spacey. Spacey is great for simple semantic understanding. It's not one of the most advanced ones, but it's really, really powerful and fairly small so that it can run fast. Another tool that we can use here is called semantic schema generation. If you're unfamiliar with semantic schema markup, it is a type of structured data that you can put on the back end of your website to help Google better understand what your content's about. There's a lot of use cases around semantic schema markup. One of the biggest ones is, it's also called entity SEO, but you're also trying to solve for disambiguation. So let's say that you have like in this case, you had a online therapy page and you have an online psychiatry page. You'll use semantic schema markup to help Google better understand that one's about like is about true therapy, and the other one's about psychiatry, and that they're different. You can have a bunch of links supporting that. I have made tools that can do this, but one of my favorite ones is InLinks has a free tool that you can just go pop in your URL and it'll recommend the markup for you, and you can copy and paste. I will warn you that they will make some mistakes here and there. And you'll see that, like, for a good example here, I don't know if I had zoom in. Yeah, zoom in here. So I did it about an online therapy page. So if you look at the code, there's a section called About and Mentions. And the About is spot on. It's about online counseling and therapy. And then where it says Mentions, it says Mentions Doctor of Philosophy. Well, nowhere in this content did we talk about philosophy at all. So it can make some mistakes. So another reason to always fact check everything that AI does for you. So some prompts that you can do with AI. I'm not a huge fan of what they output, but you can do it. It's you tell it to crawl the URL, extract the main content, try to, if possible, ignore the header and footer, and just focus on the main content. And within that, look for known entities that might appear in Google's knowledge graph or a Wikipedia page. Then create the semantic schema markup in JSON LD and try to link it to known Wikipedia URLs. This is where you'll have to get really creative, because I did this on a URL and it did find quite a few Wikipedia links, and some of them were not live and some of them were duplicate. So it says Google, Gemini links to Google and Google again. And so that would technically be invalid schema because you're duplicating there. One of my favorite ones here is finding internal link opportunities. I did not get a whole lot of success using ChatGPT for this. And so what I did is I attached an all in links report from Screaming Frog and had it analyze and try to tell me, how is my site organized by links? What are the strongest pages? And what are some of the opportunities to improve my internal linking? And it gave me just very high level stuff. And it really just did not give me any helpful information. So naturally, I created a tool to tell me exactly what I wanted to know. And so it tells me, the average links per page. It tells me, what the top hubs are based on the internal links. So understanding, and this is really powerful, because if you want to understand what Google thinks your top hub pages are and how your site is structured, it's going to be through internal links. And doing something like this and understanding what your top hubs are gives you an idea of what Google might think. So this is a really good gut check. So if you run this tool and you see that it's not lining up to how your site's supposed to be structured, you can go back and start working on some of your internal linking and making sure that your top hubs have a really good hub and spoke model. Another important thing here, it says the most common link placement is navigation. And it's that fourth one down here where it says it has this many occurrences. That is going to be common. You can adjust your internal all in links report to remove that if you don't care about it. But it also tells me that I may want to work on the types of links or add some segments to adjust this formula. And then it also gives you some pages with low internal link counts. So then you can go through some of these pages and try to figure out, like, okay, are these pages I care about ranking? And if so, then they need a lot more internal links. One of the more powerful things we can do too is log file analysis with AI. If you're not familiar with log file analysis, it's the practice of getting access logs from your website's host server. What these access logs will tell you is exactly how users and bots are accessing your website. And looking at an access log, it has a few bits to it. It has like the timestamp, the user agent, what kind of device it was using, the IP address. And by using that information, we're able to segment out Googlebot. And if we just look at Googlebot in your access logs, we know exactly how Google is crawling your site and where they're spending the most time. There's a lot of tools that will do this. You can just plug and play, but it's not using AI and doesn't give you some specific bits of helpful information. When I gave it to ChatGPT, not impressed with what it gave me. It says no immediate red flags. Everything was good. You know, no needs for concerns. But when I ran it through, and this is a sample log that I upload, I ran it through a Python tool I created, and it has a few bits that I think are really important. It tells you total how many Googlebot hits out of total log entries. So it will segment out Googlebot, and here they're all pretending to be Google. So this is just a sample, but like if you have like a really disproportionate, that could be an issue. It'll tell you your most crawled pages, which is also important because you'll likely see your robots txt is number one, and that's not something to freak out about because that's the first thing Google crawls every single time. It gives you response code trends so that you can quickly identify any issues. And my favorite thing that I got to work here was average time between hits. Now, why this is important is in SEO, we like to think that freshness is a ranking factor. So keeping our articles up to date, and some people are updating weekly. Some publishers think that they need to be updating daily. And the truth is, Google's probably not crawling our pages every single day. They may be crawling our site every single day, but not all of our pages. And if you have a site with millions of pages, they're definitely not crawling every single page every single day. So what you can do is this will tell you the average time that they crawl it. So if they tell you, hey, Google's really only crawling your page every 7 days, you don't need to update it every day. They're probably not seeing that. So stop worrying about what Google's going to see and figure out if that's best for users. And I think that's one of the most powerful things we can get out of here. And that was some ideas to help inspire you to get started with AI and technical SEO. I do have the free tools. So if you go to my website, johnmcalpin.com /free-AI-tools, that is where you're going to get a link to everything I've shared here. And if you'd like to work with me, whether it's an SEO engagement or custom WordPress sites, you can contact me on my website as well. I think you're muted, Casey.
Yeah. I did type in some questions that I had. Here. That link hub checker, was that part of the free tools?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's one of the ones that I had up there. How it's checking that is basically how many links that those pages are getting, and typically your link hubs through breadcrumbs or other means are going to have the most internal links, and those are what Google is going to think are probably the most important pages on your site. So it's automatically going to tell you what those are.
Awesome. Anybody else got any questions? I lost my little window. It's just not trying to show me questions.
I did see a comment in there about playing with our extinction, which I think is funny. the more I work with AI and the more I learn about how they're created, the less confidence in Skynet I have. AI really is dumb sometimes, and the people that make AI, while they seem really cool, are also really dumb because they're essentially what they're doing right now is training their LLMs on itself. A good example is what Musk is trying to do with Twitter, and Twitter's trying to create their own AI training on Twitter data. Now, when you train something on itself too much over and over and over again, it's going to get really dumb. And a good analogy for that is playing the game of telephone. And when you have that bit of information, the more it goes through the cycle, the dumber it's going to get.
Yeah.
Another cool thing that's happening right now, which I maybe it's a little anarchist for me to say, but I think it's really cool, is there's a lot of lawsuits going on right now because Google or these tools can now generate images, and they've been caught stealing from artists because they had to learn from somewhere.
Yeah.
So what artists are doing are poisoning their images. How these images are created, it's like pixel by pixel. It's like building Legos essentially to create an image, and so what artists are doing is running it through an algorithm, and it will like mess up some pixels, so the human eye will never figure it out. But that one building block switch up will poison the AI, and you'll say, generate an image of a dog, and it's going to look like a sickly cat, and it'll just be and it's permanent because these are not retroactive things that they can fix. So they are like going to
Wow.
be stuck. And I'm sure they're going to get to a point where they can roll back like versions, but like if they keep doing that and that ends up going into content too, that can be disastrous for these AI companies.
Yeah.
So I don't put too much stock in them, and that's why I always have to fact check. And it's another reason why I don't think Skynet will ever happen.
All right. Kevin had a question for you.
How much
How much?
synthetic data versus human data is too much? Um, it's a good question. That's something that I think you'd have to get into the statistical analysis of what I don't know the answer to that. To be honest, I don't. I think there is a balance. Everything's created by humans, but like at some point, it's going to run out of data to train on, human data. And if people keep using AI for content, it's kind of like we're poisoning the content itself there, and it's just going to get dumber and dumber. And so, knowing that it can't truly be creative and it's just repeating what it's learned, it's I I I think that I honestly feel like we're kind of at the peak of AI right now, and until they find a new way to train data, we're going to stay here for a while.
Yeah. Kevin liked the poison images.
Yeah, let me see if I can find out what it was called. AI image poisoning. Nightshade is what it's called. That's the algorithm. And so, an apt name, really. But artists are using it, starting to use it a lot more and more. And I personally love it. Anything you can do to protect your own IP, especially if you have a signature style. And if you look at AI image generators, which I generated a few images for this presentation for funsies, which I was transparent about, they have styles in there, which they had to learn that from somewhere.
Yeah. Yep. We've been, well, we, there's a couple of us here that have been really playing with the AI stuff and like just using it to lighten the load, basically.
Yeah,
Anything that I'm doing, uh, anything that I'm doing repetitively,
yeah,
just quick, simple things.
yeah. It's that's why I'm not like anti AI at all. I think if you're using it for the right reasons, it's why not make things simpler,
Yeah.
especially if it can save you time.
Yeah. Because like I've looked at paying, like filling out Google profiles, business profiles, the little services
Hmm.
where you get like 300
It's
characters.
so tedious.
It's so tedious. I made a specific chat GPT bot that's trained just to give me my 300 characters.
That's perfect. Yeah, I mean,
So
Yeah,
things
I've
like
I've done
that.
that with meta descriptions before, where I'll just generate meta descriptions based on the content. And what's really frustrating about it is I'll, like, stay between, like, 135 to 155 characters, and it will always consistently go way over or way under. Like, and I'm like, "Why?" Like, you had specific instructions, why can't you follow them?
It there. So I've got mine to where it'll. I've had it go as low as 127, but most of the time it'll be between 140 and 160. You can make it do a character count at the end of each one too.
I've done that, and it still had issues. I haven't done it in
Yeah.
a long time, so maybe they've gotten better. I've also only tried it with ChatGPT. I haven't tried it with Gemini or Claude. Um, and I kinda cycle between them depending on who's giving me heartache.
Yeah.
I also use it for web development sometimes just to save time. So, like, my websites are completely custom built in the back end, so I use, advanced custom fields. So I build the backend experience as, like, just to be user friendly, and I can export a JSON of all the fields. Say, "Hey, just, like, export the PHP for all of this so that I could just spend more time, like, designing it than, like, building out the back end." Because
Yeah.
at some point, it's just copy and paste. Why not just get it all done?
Yep. Kevin said, "Wait, Nightshade is still SEO friendly."
Yeah, we can't wait to get that into the SEO game, start poisoning SEO, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I'm sure they're actively working on a filter to fix that. But to do that, they have to redo how they um, build images, or if there's a signature. I don't know. Don't really care. Honestly, I don't do a whole lot of commercial AI image generation. It's more for fun, and I think it's funny. But, like, I don't like it for commercial use.
Yeah. I don't do a lot of commercial images either. It's more fun and playing around. Like
Yeah,
we've been trying Leonardo and all the different AI image generators, and just to see how far they're coming along, basically.
yeah. And they still make a lot of issues, but sometimes they're really good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. They still have issues with
the
hands and
hands are the
fingers.
hardest. I mean, I
Oh
have a hard
man.
time drawing fingers too, but the fingers is always how you tell.
Yeah. Yeah. Normally it's like a random arm coming out or just
Or six
randomness.
fingers or something's
Yeah.
blended. Yeah, totally. Um, that's right, Chris. They are a little too artificial. I,
Yeah.
sometimes they're like, "Oh yeah, this one." They try to shock you with, "That's not real. That's actually AI." And I kind of want to say prove it because I haven't seen one do anything spectacular yet.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Anybody else got any questions? I mean, I could talk about ChatGPT till I'm blue in the face.
Yeah.
So I've been on a huge kick using.
It's a lot of fun what you can do and just how imaginative you can get. I think the way I use it with Excel and stuff is not super imaginative, but, like, it's definitely a time saver. I think that's more where we should focus with
Yeah,
AI. The
the
companies like
combining
that. Go ahead.
the combining with that you were doing for the redirects was really cool. I never thought about that.
It saves
So
so much time, and you can have it depending on what you're using. Crawl, um, like the title tag, like I said, for, like, if you have a large set of data, you'll end up, like, say, call the content, you'd be waiting forever or it'll time out. So I'm like, okay, instead of doing that, crawl the title tag. And some of them like, well, we can't access the page. I'm like, fine, look at the URL slugs and go off of that then.
yeah,
So there's a lot of, like, playing around with it. What I'm doing right now is Google released a while back their LLM transformers, which is probably one of the most state of the art ones. Uh, I make a lot of public tools in, like, Streamlit and stuff like that, but that's the one I can't get to work because it's so big that Streamlit just crashes on me. And so what I've been doing is using it to do sentiment analysis. So if I'm looking at a product or a brand or something, I'll, like, upload thousands of reviews and create, like, a bulleted sentiment analysis just to understand something. So I can understand an industry, a topic, without having to read, like, a ton of stuff.
that's
So
pretty cool.
again, personal understanding and education and research, not
Yeah,
output.
yeah. So, all right, you mentioned Screaming Frog and Sightbulb.
Mhm.
I've never heard of Sightbulb. How is that one
So
comparatively?
Sightbulb is a combination of like a one of the web-based ones and a combination of that and Screaming Frog. So it's a desktop-based app, but now you can do it. Actually, they actually have a server-based version now. But it's basically one you can download. It runs just like Screaming Frog, where it's hosted on your computer. It uses your computer's processing to crawl a site, but it'll give you more of like a action item list. They did it, but Screaming Frog finally added one similar. But honestly, if you're looking for like better analysis of like or a first look at a site, Sitebulb is a little bit better in the sense that it'll tell you like a little bit more information. And if you're doing more like consumer facing audits, I love Sitebulb. Um, Screaming Frog is better for site visualizations, like especially specifically like the crawler visualizations. Um, and if you have a specific use case, like I'm using uh, like Screaming Frog for like I need to understand like a specific like extraction. Like Sitebulb can do all that too, but Screaming Frog is better for if you know what you're doing. If you're new to SEO and you're trying to understand what's important, Sitebulb's great. But they also have great charts. Like I think their charts are a lot better than Screaming Frog. So, but almost all of the things that you look for in an audit, they have a chart for it.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. I'll have to look into that one.
it's
I've
not terribly expensive.
Yeah, I've been playing with the Screaming Frog since way back in the day. So
I will say that even if you use Sitebulb, you still need Screaming Frog.
okay.
I feel like it's just the essential. Like, are you even doing SEO if you don't have it? Um, but
Yeah.
I use them in tandem.
Okay. Cool. And then Kevin said large scale review analysis. This is all brain candy.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, it's again, most of my AI tools that are built are on use cases. Like, I wish I could do this faster or at a bigger scale. Oh wait, I can. And so I'll spend 5 hours building a tool to save 10 minutes sometimes. But then I'll like have that forever and be able to share that with other people and have help other people save time. So I think that time's well spent.
Yeah. One that I found out about a couple weeks ago, Syllabi Austin Armstrong.
I don't know.
He made a Chrome extension for YouTube and it'll transcribe videos. And it's
Like a
pretty
free
sweet.
tool?
Yeah.
Dude, nice. Yeah, I know there's like a
Yeah.
lot of paid ones out there, but like that's
Yeah,
sick.
it's completely free. It does like this video we're doing right now, it'll probably take 24 to 48 hours before it'll have a transcription for it.
Mm.
But yeah,
That's not
it,
far off from a lot of the other ones. They'll do some AI fast ones, but to get a human to go back and review it, that's about how long they'll take anyways.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it makes it nice because then I can just like grab the transcription of this video, tell ChatGPT to summarize it, and then read through it
Perfect.
real quick, or make a YouTube description for it because I'm
Yeah.
not that great at YouTube descriptions. So
Yeah, another creative thing that you can use, as far as content in AI, I heard a funny one is like someone on my team at work is like, when I'm really heated and I'm like sending a message telling someone off, and it's like she'll type out the message and go to ChatGPT and it's like, hey, make this like way softer, soften this up.
I I've I'm gonna say I've gotten a little. We'll go with lazy. I've started. I got ChatGPT on my phone, so we were having a crawfish boil with my family. So I went to ChatGPT. Hey, I need a text to remind everybody that this weekend crawfish boil. Bring chairs. Bring gardening tools. And it spit me out a little deal, and I sent it off.
There's
All
a
my
whole
family.
South Park episode on that.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, it's
I'm not
about how
this.
all the guys are like just using a chat GPT for texting everyone.
Yeah, I'll have to find that one. That's kind
Yeah,
of cool.
it's a good one.
So, all right. Anybody else got any questions? I'm trying to give y'all some time. All right. I do have one thing to mention. This is what happens. I get text messages during this that I completely forgot. We have a speaker that comes to our conference every year. His name is Mark Irvine. He passed away, and we want to give our condolences to his family. Um, he he's been coming to our conference and speaking for years, and it is a huge loss for our industry. So we just want to. It's going to be rough. We're going to miss him.
One of the nicest guys I've ever met at a conference.
Yeah, extremely nice. Wow. Yeah, it was rough when we found out. Like me and Chris were talking, and we found out, and like I was frantically searching Google trying to see if it was actually true. So yeah, it was rough. But yeah, we're gonna end it with that. Um, we're looking forward to seeing everybody at the conference.
Thanks for
Y'all
having me,
have.
Casey.
You're welcome. You have a great evening.
All right, you too, man. See
All
you.
right.